Hey y'all, Rob here with ATX Legal, and today we're going to be talking about medical bills, and specifically after you get into an accident, but before you've received your settlement. How are you going to cover all those medical bills that are piling up? If you don't have health care, it might be an issue. Stick around to find out how these things are typically handled, because of course you do need to get that medical care right away. So it's a very typical situation where someone's been involved in an accident and they have a settlement that will come, but that settlement's going to be months or even years away, and they have medical bills and a medical emergency that they have to deal with right now. Maybe they have health insurance and that's going to be covering some of it, but it doesn't cover all of it, or maybe it doesn't cover any of it. So how do they get that medical care? Well, your attorney can send what's called a letter of protection to the medical providers. And what that says is, look, there's a settlement coming. We're not going to have the funds now to pay, but when that settlement comes, we will pay you out of that settlement. Now, this letter actually gives a lien to the medical provider, which means they have a claim on your settlement when you do finally get it. So when your attorney receives that settlement, he gets it before you get it, and he has to pay out to those medical providers even before he pays out the remainder to you. So it does create that lien, but it also allows the medical providers to go ahead and do the procedures that they need to do without worrying about getting paid. Now, of course, if something happens with that settlement, if it falls through, there's no liability, you would end up being on the hook for those medical bills. So we do have to be careful. But for those cases where liability is clear and we're not worried about that, it can be a very good thing to go ahead and send that letter of protection to the medical provider. You can get that health care that you need without paying for it up front, and then you can pay for it out of the settlement. And the lien that the medical providers get is called a subrogation lien. So if you hear that term bandied about and you don't know what it means, just think it means that they have a claim on that settlement before you get it, and it is an actually legally binding claim, and the attorney has that responsibility to get them that money before they send the money to their client. So it creates that additional legal responsibility for you and for your attorney. Now, obviously, this is a very good system. As I discussed, it allows you to get that medical care early when you need it. There are some things to be wary about. There are some medical providers who will overtreat, meaning they'll have you come back and kind of run up those medical bills because you're like, hey, I'm not paying, you're not thinking about it. It's kind of like having a credit card where you're not thinking about the money you're spending. So just be careful. If your antenna goes up that your medical provider is overtreating you, don't feel like you need to come back unless you really do need to go back for medical care for your injuries. I don't want you to not get the medical care that you need, but at the same time, you do have to be wary of certain pitfalls. And if you are worried about it, this is a great thing to bring up with your attorney and say, hey, I think my medical provider is overtreating me. What should we do here? And you can have that discussion with your attorney. And one last thing to be wary about, in the state of Texas, it is actually allowable for attorneys to loan money to their clients. We don't do that at ATX Legal. I think it's borderline unethical. And in fact, some states have outlawed that practice. And the reason, if you think about it a little bit, it could create a conflict of interest, because at this point, the attorney is the lender. If there is some issue with that loan, that could be a conflict of interest, and then your attorney should actually be withdrawing from the case. So because of all those complications, ATX Legal and many other law firms don't loan to their clients. And in fact, if you are getting promises for a loan for your medical expenses, just be very, very careful. It's not disallowed by Texas law, but it should potentially be a red flag for that attorney. Now, if you found this video because you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or some other way, and you're looking for an attorney, ATX Legal is a boutique law firm. We handle fewer cases and we give very personalized care to all our clients. So if that's what you're looking for, you can give us a call or even give us a text, or you can visit us at atx.legal.